Okay, what's happening? One second, Justice. Ayan. Wait, na-press ko ba? Alright, everyone. Kamusta naman kayo dyan? Wherever you're joining us from, kasama naman natin ngayon. Isa sa mga paborito niyang guests, aside from Ronald Llamas, of course, the one and only Justice Carpio. Thank you very much, Justice, for making time for us. I know a bit short notice na naman tayo. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Richard, for having me again.
As always, so ang dami natin pag-usapan. Una-una, of course, itong mga latest na developments sa Philippine-China relations dahil nagkaroon ng meeting at least between our diplomats. Also, you have these important statements from General Bronner, the Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, including a call for compensation and also a warning na we're gonna stand our ground and use force if it's necessary. But before going there, Justice Carpio, pag-usapan natin ito para naman yung isang magaling natin na senador, no, na itago natin sa pangalan na IMEE Marcos, meron naman siya mga military analysis. Hindi ko alam saan niya kinuha, sa TikTok ba yan or something, na meron daw siyang nakita. Yan naman mga style nila, meron daw siyang nakita. Saan? Saan mo pinulot? Na may 26 targets daw sa Pilipinas at ano yun ng China ng hypersonic, ganyan. Hindi ko alam maintindihan niya ano ba talaga yung hypersonic missile systems, etc. What's going on here, Justice? Should we be worried? Kasi ang point ko, okay, China has nuclear weapons. So mag-ano na tayo, mag-give up na tayo kagad. I mean, like, what's the point of even talking about these things?
Richard, the three warfares doctrine of China, which is really what they're following, that has been approved by the People's Congress, by the Central Military Commission, by the Politburo. That's doctrinal in China, that they will win the South China Sea firing a single shot. Yeah. They will just intimidate Vietnam, the Philippines, Malaysia, Brunei, and Indonesia. Because they know if there is a war, it could escalate into a nuclear war. Yeah. And in a nuclear war, not a single Chinese citizen would survive in the mainland. Because if there's a nuclear war between the US and China, China with only 500 nuclear weapons cannot outmatch the Americans with 5,500. So the doctrine of China is win without firing a single shot. You intimidate. During the time of Duterte, it was Duterte who was the agent of China in intimidating us. Sabi niya, there will be a massacre. Our army, our navy will be massacred, even our police. So tinatakot tayo.
Yeah. Suicide mission daw, suicide mission daw. Yeah.
Wala na si Duterte. It's now IMEE who's taking over. I think it's not when you say something like that there are hypersonic missiles that are aimed at 26 targets in the Philippines. I mean, you have to back it up with what exactly is the doctrine of China.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't think China will start a war because they know that we have a mutual defense treaty, and they will not survive also. I mean, they will destroy large areas of the US, but they will be totally wiped out. So that's why in all the actions of China, they will bully you if you don't have a nuclear armed treaty partner, like what they're doing to Vietnam. Yeah. But for us, they're very careful. You can just see what happened in Yung Shoal. They engage us, but without firearms, because the use of firearms would be an armed attack under modern warfare. So they use knives, bladed weapons. So we have to understand, before you say anything like that, you have to look at the doctrine of China and what exactly is the strategy of China, their method of their plan to control the South China Sea. But they are winning because they have successfully intimidated the others, no?
Yeah.
And during the time of Duterte, he allowed himself to be intimidated, and he became the agent of China in intimidating the Filipino people.
Well, I mean, again, Justice, let me fervently disagree with you in a sense that when Duterte said, alam mo na what's coming, when Duterte said, nako, pag ginawa natin, na-assert natin arbitration award, gigirahin tayo ng China, yung mga Chinese parang, naku, parang pinapahiya tayo nitong ano natin eh. Di ba? Parang, I think sometimes he overdid yung role niya, which is like, yung mga Chinese, di ba? The Chinese keep on saying, peace, sea of peace, I don't know, harmony, charot-charot na gano'n, di ba? And then ito si Duterte, alam mo, Chinese na to, gigirahin tayo. Diba? So I think there were times na he was embarrassing China and parang napapakamot sila Xi Jinping sa kanya, di ba? Like he was, like, relax lang. Ginalingan masyado, ginalingan masyado.
No, he was so enthusiastic in being the agent of China.
Na overdue. Baka may ano sila, may overtime, OT, ano. I'm just saying, Justice, you never know, di ba? I mean, parang ginalingan masyado. Takutin mo lang ng konti, hindi yung sabihin mo na susugurin namin ng Pilipinas kagad. But speaking about this, I mean, again, there's a reason why China is using all of these gray zone strategies, no, 1,000 shades. It's precisely because they don't want to use armed attack, because they don't want to, trigger conflict with the United States. I mean, obvious naman yun. So I don't understand bakit pumasok ang hypersonic. Barrel na nga lang, natatakot silang gamitin. Tapos hypersonic nila ang Pilipinas. I mean, like, again, at saka your point on the doctrine, okay, may nakita ka sa YouTube, or I don't know, may nakita ka sa YouTube University or TikTok University. Ang tanong, exactly, under what conditions would China use those hypersonic? Is this the apocalypse, end of the world? So, yun nga, kaya sabi ko, anong saysay na tong sinasabi niya? So, i-hypersonic tayo dahil niresupply natin yung BRP Sierra Madre. I mean, like, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, kaya, so your take is, Justice, wala akong sinasabi, ikaw yun papamak kita. Sinabi na baka kasama yan dun sa yung mga basta si Digong nag-overtime talaga.
He was really, more than doing a favor.
Parang, overdone. Tama na yan. Sir, okay na yan. Okay na yan. Di ba yung may parang, may pinaaway ka sa kapitbahay, biglang dami niyang binugbog. Wait, tama na yan. Ginanon na siya. Now, Justice, going back to this, can we remind everyone of the missile defense game here? Because, okay, hindi na ito kababayan natin, si Vladimir Putin, meron siyang, I don't know, nag-rant na naman siya about US missile deployments. Ang basa ko, this has to do more with Poland and Finland, diba? But, he mentioned the Philippines on the sides. I don't know if Putin is as sharp as before. I know that he used to have very sharp, very intelligent, 4-hour-long na talagang, hindi Tatay Digong style. Yung matino talaga, maayos yung Russian, maayos yung delivery. But he mentioned something like yung mga countries na parang satellite ng US na nag-host ng mga major weapon systems nila, there will be a counter move by Russia. Anong take mo dyan, Justice? Ano lang ba, hanash lang ni Putin yan? Or, I don't know, he just flippantly mentioned the Philippines? What should we even be concerned about Putin saying something about Typhoon missile defense deployment by the Americans?
Well, Richard, the background here is that the Americans accused the Russians of violating the intermediate range ballistic treaty. No,
Yeah.
The Americans were saying the Russians kept on cheating and cheating. They were developing. They were actually in possession of intermediate range ballistic missiles, nuclear armed. So the U.S. said we will get out. And the other...
Yeah, this is Trump administration time, diba? This is during the Trump administration.
Yeah, that was before. And then the Chinese are not part of the treaty, so the Chinese, they're getting a pass. They're developing intermediate range ballistic missiles, nuclear armed. There is no cap on their number of missiles. So the Americans, because they're facing the Chinese in the South China Sea, that's another reason for them to get out. No, so they got out, and now Putin is saying, "Oh, because you're now manufacturing, you're now producing this intermediate range ballistic missiles. We are going to do that also." And since you deployed it in Europe and in the Philippines, we're thinking of deploying it also in similar countries. No, so well, yung premise dyan is, they violated this eh.
Yeah.
They violated the treaty, and that's why the Americans got out. And now they're saying, uh, because you are now producing, we will also produce. Eh, sila ang ano eh.
Yeah.
They started it eh. And the other occasion there is, uh, the Americans wanted the Chinese to be part of the treaty because the Chinese were building their arsenal of intermediate range ballistic missiles, no?
I mean, the argument of the Trump administration was that this arms control regime was outdated. It didn't take into consideration Russian cheating, but more importantly, China having essentially a free pass, carte blanche, right, to keep on
Yeah.
not only improving its nuclear triad capability, but also to massively increase, if not even change yung second strike doctrine nila. So I have some Chinese expert friends who I have been in discussion on this issue. So in that context, siguro si Putin is also warning that there will be countermeasures. But your argument is essentially, ang ginagawa lang ni Putin is that he's pushing out the blame. Gaslighting, I think, is the term nowadays on that. But yun nga, I don't think he was like referring to the Philippines. Like, saan sila magpadala ng countermeasure nila? Vladivostok? North Korea? Vietnam? I mean, doesn't make sense. Russia is so spread thin on the Ukraine front, and like the bugbog sarado na sila. Like, they're not gonna threaten the Philippines or anything like that. But Justice, what do you say to the argument that, okay, we condemn the invasion of Ukraine. Hindi tayo natutuwa kay Putin, si Digong lang siguro natutuwa masyado. But having said that, since we have no maritime and territorial disputes with Russia, shouldn't we do something like the Vietnamese and Indians to use Russia also against China, or drive a wedge between China and Russia? Because you still don't want those two giants to be together, right? It creates its own complications. And we saw Putin visiting Vietnam, Putin visiting New Delhi. We saw Russians don't give a heck to China sometimes. They just put oil rigs in Vietnam, in Indonesia. I mean, Russians care only about Russians, right? So, di ba sabi nung Nicholas ba yan, sabi niya, Russia only has 3 allies. The Russian Navy, the Russian Army, di ba? Ganun, di ba? Ganun yung mindset ng Russians eh. So, don't you think, I mean, of course, we're a US treaty ally, of course, there's CATSA, sanctions, but shouldn't we also have some strategic engagement with Russia, like some drills, some interaction, to make sure na hindi tayo, or we can help driving a wedge between these two, together with Vietnam, India, and others?
Well, the Vietnamese tried that. They got the Russian
Kilo
oil
class
companies to
submarines.
partner with them,
Yeah.
just to ward off the Chinese, because if your partner is Russia, then probably the Chinese will be kind to you. But nothing of that kind happened. I mean, the Chinese still stopped the Vietnamese from exploring the area together with the Russians. So nothing happened there. So it didn't work for Vietnam, I think. And Vietnam is closer to Russia than the Philippines, no? In terms of history, in terms of during the Vietnam War. So I don't think we can play that game because we don't really have historical ties with Russia. And at any time of the day, Russia will choose China over us.
So what you're saying is it's too much of a risk or anything like that. Although I would say, of course, in counter justice that, Vietnam got its Kilo class submarines from Russia. It's about to buy, based on the New York Times report, $8 billion in additional ones. But what you're saying is, wala, stuck ang Vietnam. Wala na silang options. Their only big producer of weapons suppliers is Russia, so they have to stick to it. Unlike us in the Philippines, we have options and we're US treaty ally. Is that what you're saying? Like, Russia is not worth the risk. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, Russia will sell to us their submarines if we pay for them in full.
Yeah.
But of course, the
And
Americans
get sanctioned
will
by
say,
US. And get sanctioned by US.
sanctioned by the US. So, at least we got the BrahMos. That's a joint venture with India.
And Russia, So
That's why China objected to that, but I don't know how the Indians got away with that. But so we have to take advantage of that and buy more.
So maybe we buy more Russian weapons via India, right? Or something like that, diba? Or work with Vietnamese on some weapons development na Russian link. So like essentially we'll have it indirect. Parang thanks for the inspiration Moscow, but we'll get it from kasi Indians make it cheaper pa, di ba? They get the Russian technology, they make it even more affordable.
Yes, and they extend credit also.
Yes, that's a very important one. Actually, yun ang narinig ko, Justice, nung time ni Digong. Kasi I covered a lot the Russia angle. And, you know, I talk a lot with the Russians experts, etc. Yun daw, wala nang credit. Wala silang pera eh. Like, wala, you want it, you pay for it, my friend. You know, my friend, you pay for it now. I mean, like, wala nang silang ano eh, di ba? Unlike Chinese, Americans.
Remember, we deposited for those Russian
Chopper,
helicopters.
200 million,
And,
di ba? Oo.
Yeah, and they didn't give it back to us when they canceled it.
Oh my God. Makanang in-forward na 80 million, something like that? Parang malaki.
About $100 million.
Oh, wow. Kinain na. Wala, Duterte should reimburse us. Kasalanan yan eh. So, di ba US said they will replace that daw with their, yung, with, I don't know which chopper they were offering us. But di ba yun ang sabi
in fact, they did. Yes, but we cannot recover what we deposited.
So yun pala eh. We gave them $100 million for free. China will never do that, Justice. May utang na loob ang Russia. China will not give even a penny in free to Russia. We gave them 100 million because of Digong. So, I don't know. I'm gonna pull some strings there with Russians. Hey, my friend, you $100 million. You know, you have to give it back. Okay, Justice. I see your skepticism and I understand completely where you're coming from. But your point is, doon na tayo sa India and Vietnam diretso na. Wag na tayo mag-play footsie with the Kremlin and all of that. Yeah,
we can get the missiles from India, and they're very good. No?
Yeah, exactly.
Those BrahMos missiles are very good.
And these BrahMos are supersonic, I think Mach 3 or 4, but meron silang hypersonic version din yan, no? So down the road, we can also get the hypersonic version.
Yeah.
So para matuwa si IMEE na meron din tayong hypersonic, 'di ba? Kasi mukhang tuwang-tuwa basta hyper, supra, yung mga ganun, para lagay mo na ng mga superlatives. Matatakot na yung mga natin, mga ka-DDS natin.
Yung hypersonic, yung Iskander at saka the other hypersonic missiles of Russia are all being shut down by the Patriot missiles
sa Ukraine. Yeah, yun nga din sabi ko, like, are these people even following realities on the ground? After all the hype, parang hypersonic siya, puro siyang hype. Nung ginamit sa Ukraine, walang kakwenta-kwenta. But yung mga 5th generation fighters nila, di ba? Yung mga Su-75 ba yan? Or Su-57s? I have models of that. I thought it was puro sinashad. Yung iba nga, nagka-crash na lang on their own. So like, there's a lot of,
when the hypersonic missiles of Russia were shut down by the Patriot missiles, the Putin had the scientists who developed it investigated. Bakit? Why did it work?
Na-Duterte din sila. Baka na-Duterte din yung mga... I mean, hindi Su-27, as in yung Su-57, may mga nagre-react kasi dito natitrigger yung mga ka-Kremlin natin dyan. Justice, now let's go back to the latest developments dito sa Ayungin Shoal. So the last time we were talking last week, medyo it was in the aftermath, afterglow, of all that communication, FOPA, the whole Bersamin thing, the whole, Gibo thing and all. So now, nagkaroon ng meeting ulit between DFA and China, from what I understand. And also, the AFP has made statements including kailangan daw may compensation, $1 million or something dun sa lost thumb at saka injury na na-inflict ng China. What is your understanding of this conversation going on between the two sides?
Well, the Russians, the Chinese are saying that we can have co-development or joint venture, but the definition of China for co-development is that we share equally the sovereign rights or the sovereignty over that area. So that means we will be giving up half of our sovereign rights. I mean, that's a no-go. I mean, you're crazy to accept that. So we're back really to square one. No? They keep on saying co-development, and we know what that means. Including the sovereign rights. We can never do that.
Yeah.
And then what AFP Chief Browner said, that the next time they will not allow themselves to be bullied. They will fight back. if the Chinese will use bladed weapons, our troops will use bladed weapons also. So this is the, yun nga, what you said
Exactly.
about this ghost ship and fighting with ancient weapons. I
Yeah.
mean, this is what I see, no? But maganda yan kasi no firearms. Just mano-mano lang.
So, yung Operation Moro Badyaw natin, mukhang may pag-asa pa, Justice. Mukhang it
Uh,
might go there, yeah. Eventually and all.
yeah, but I'm sure if the Chinese know that our troops are also armed with bladed weapons, they're not going to board
Yeah.
because, of course, they patas ang laban. They'll never do that.
Yeah, I mean, pwede rin natin pakita yung Arnis na Filipino skills. Ayan, baka si Senator Mig Zubiri, champion yan, di ba? Baka pwede niya turuan yung mga ba since hindi na siya Senate President. Now, Justice, again, I mean, realistically, how can we de-escalate tensions? I mean, let's just pretend, continue with this kind of, continue with this, kunyari talking past each other. I mean, how can we diffuse tensions to make sure it doesn't get out of control? Or your contention is, my understanding, your contention is, yeah, let's just do what we have until the Chinese accept ito na talagang reality na hindi tayo push over. What should be the next steps here in terms of making sure that this doesn't get out of control?
Well, we can airdrop some of the supplies.
Yeah.
And then we can use faster small boats to deliver. It's a matter of it's a race actually. So there are many things that we can do, and we can arm our troops with bladed weapons, so that will deter them, no? Because patas ang laban eh. So naunahan lang tayo because the Chinese knew that we would not use their firearms, and they knew that we did not have bladed weapons, so we could only use our bare hands.
Right.
So ang tapang nila, but if our troops had the same bladed weapons, I'm sure they would not have been able to puncture the ribs the way they did it, no?
Yeah, so what we're seeing here is just a few adjustments and all. Admiral Ong talked about usage of big vessels, big ships, and na mas malapit siguro from there we can deploy some of these patrols, patrol boats. May proposal din, I think, I was it you or Admiral Bot bringing in, kind of a rig, a platform, a movable platform na para may additional structure ka dyan in addition to BRP Sierra Madre. What are the other ways where we can solidify and concretize, literally perhaps, our presence in the area? Kasi in China may preponderance of force around diba?
Well,
At kinakat yung supply lines natin
Well, we should announce that we are putting up a civilian structure, a lighthouse, a marine research center, and Coast Guard substation, and bring materials there. I'm sure the Chinese will stop us. Once they stop us, we go to the tribunal because it's a civilian activity. And then that's what they dread. They really dread that we will bring another arbitration case because they will not appear again because they will lose. And if there's an arbitral award, the world will rally behind that arbitral award again. So that's the other thing that we can do. That's a sure thing.
Yeah, Justice, now going back again to your proposal for additional arbitration cases, what you're saying is that dapat go na tayo or maybe we can use it as a leverage point. Kasi my understanding is another reason why China is very jittery is because tingin nila baka makinig si BBM sa'yo. Diba? Like, eto na naman, to si Carpio, nanggugulo na naman. Ganun yata ang thinking nila. And of course, we saw in the reports, the Chinese are now calling on their quote-unquote scholars to come up with whatever kwento-kwentuhan, di ba? Magagawa na sila. Yeah, exactly.
Narratives.
Magaling sila
That means they will
mag-construct.
invent because from the 9-dash line, they developed the 4 SHAs. Yung 4 SHAs, wala rin yun 4 archipelagos. They call Scarborough Shoal an archipelago. That's just single rock there, no?
Yeah.
So, it really won't qualify. So, and in the arbitration of The Hague, the tribunal said that the Spratlys do not constitute an archipelago.
Yeah.
So wala na. They cannot use that argument. So they're thinking of another thing.
Di ba nakahanap daw sila ng ancient map ng China na charot-charot yung pangtapat dun sa map ni Morello sa likod. Di ba?
Sabi
Ganun sila.
nila
Yeah.
meron daw silang mapa na nakita na gawa ng mga fishermen, pa hindi namin nila pinapakita sa atin.
Ayan. Parang ano yan parang yun yung video ni Buljak kay ano 'di ba BBM. Parating meron silang pulveronic video na hanggang ngayon mag-August na wala pa rin lumalabas. Baka may pagkaganon sila.
I saw that video of Wushikon that
Akala ko yung pulveronic video ni
melodramatic
Yeah.
Dati sabi niya there's just one copy of the map. Ngayon 7 na raw ang nahanap nila kopya. Dumami na. But they never show it to anyone Bawal daw ipakita sa ano. So, ang evidence nila, hindi mo pwede tingnan.
Oo. For domestic consumption lang daw yun. Baka ano daw. Parang yun yung sa Kung Fu Panda, yung secret to success, mga ganun. Hindi ko talaga maintindihan pinaggagawa nila. I mean,
that's why we should file the arbitration case. I'm sure they will not attend again, no?
yeah.
So there will be another award for us. So the patong na naman yan. And they dread another arbitral award against them.
I mean, you were pushing, if I'm not mistaken, was it also in your Wall Street Journal op-ed a few years ago whereby you said, dapat we push for seizure of their assets of Sinong CNPC or any of the companies that are involved in illegal activities?
If we get a award of damages, because if we can sue them for destruction of the marine environment, then we will get an award. The question is, how do we enforce that award? Well, one thing is to go to Canada where they have assets there because Sinuk has assets there, and seize and ask the court to get those assets forfeited in our favor, no? But now that we have borrowed from them during Duterte's time, we can offset it against the loans that we...
Pang-cancel. Parang Ilocano moves yan. Then, yung isang araw, malakas kang kumain, nagaibawas natin sa utang ko, yung mga ganun. Okay yun, okay. Actually, agree ako dun sa cancel na lang natin. Yan. Nako, delikado tayo dyan. Mukhang walang mapuntahan. Baka magalit na naman sila, sila madam na, Sabihin nila, baka sir, sabihin nila pag nag-arbitration tayo, hypersonic nila yung korte natin sa Hague. Baka may 26 daw ng target na courts. Baka i-hypersonic daw. Baka naman yan ang maging rhetoric nila. Narrative nila.
Wala namang 26 yung EDCA sites
Kaya nga, dami naman. Baka sinaman pa yung yung resort ni ganito, ganyan, di ba? Ay naku, magmamarites na kayo. Ayusin nyo pa yung script. Anyway, Justice, going back to this, magalit na naman. Baka ma-foreign affairs committee tayo, Justice, mahirap na. Justice, going back to this, let me ask you a little bit about the domestic politics front also. Again, sorry kung pinapahirapan kita, but the thing kasi is, I think both Lenny and Risa, in their own ways, struck down the possibility of a grand coalition with the administration against Duterte's, right? So yun kasi yung proposal ni Sonny Trillanes among other people. What is your understanding here? The reason I'm asking you is because, of course, Justice, you were one of the the statesmen, grand statesmen behind the whole One Sambayan. At the same time, now obviously, I think we're pretty transparent about it. We support Marcos' foreign policy when it comes to West Philippines because it's what's good for the country. It just happens that BBM is the president and doing the right thing. How do you think the genuine opposition should navigate this kind of a tricky situation whereby there is a unity of purpose and direction on foreign policy, but there's still a lot of differences domestically on historical issues, on human rights issues, among others? What is your advice as one of the former chiefs of the One Sambayan?
Well, we can cooperate on issues, on per issue. I mean, I don't think a broad coalition will happen. I don't think we will be the other partner in the UNITEAM, the genuine opposition. So it will be issue per issue. Because on the West Philippine Sea, I don't think we can criticize the administration. They're doing everything that we want the administration to do. But let's say in the Maharlika Fund, we still don't agree with that. And then on the POGOS, we don't agree with that. So there are many issues that we disagree. And
even China doesn't agree with the POGOS. So
yeah,
alay natin ng China.
Richard, before you can operate, before you can get a POGO license from PAGCOR, you have to prove that in your market, if your market is China, that China allows gambling. But China already said we don't allow
Yeah,
gambling.
exactly, yeah.
The embassy said several times we don't allow gambling, but they still issue permit. PAGCOR still issues a permit
Yeah.
to POGO operators that cater to China. So obviously, PAGCOR is turning a blind eye to a fake document because you have to submit a document saying that you can operate in the country that you want to target. Like most of these POGOs target
Yeah.
China, but China does not allow gambling. And in fact, their embassy here has repeatedly said that POGO operations, gambling, all kinds of gambling is not allowed. It's banned. So, in other words, something's wrong in PAGCOR. Why they allow it? Because they know they should have. It's public knowledge that
Yeah.
China will never allow it. So, in other words, all these POGO operators are illegal because the documents that they submitted are false, are fake
From their home
again.
country, yeah, kung saan illegal
Yes.
ito. And they should have known that. I mean, this is a common knowledge. Kaya I don't know how they're working hindi ba parang gamer, ano yun, gaming interface licensing, something like that. May ibang term din yan, di ba? GILL, something like that. Na hindi Pogo. But going back to this, Justice, I mean, obviously it looks like there are a couple of people, to put it mildly, na may fake passport na Filipino, 'di ba? I mean, itago na natin sa pangalan na Alice Go or something. Waping ba ang pangalan? Don't you think the expose on this issue also could kind of have a I mean, if it's overdone, in a sense, it could have a boomerang effect kung saan baka ma-question na yung validity ng passports natin in general, na maging mukha tayong banana republic. Na, kung if anyone can walk in and get a fake passport, then doesn't that question, undermine the integrity of our national passports and therefore even affect perhaps our OFWs and all? Or maybe we're overthinking this. I mean, if this expose show na medyo en masse itong mga fake passport, like the Alice Go issue is pattern rather than an isolated case. I mean, what is your understanding of that?
Well, the news is out there already that they are able to get fake passports, fake citizenship. So if we don't do anything,
Yeah.
then we may get blacklisted, or other
Yeah.
countries
Yun nga eh.
will give us a hard time every time we visit them. But we
Yeah.
could be one of those
Yeah.
holding fake passports now. So we just have to clean up
Yeah.
to show to the world that we've cleaned up.
Yeah, and what about yung mga mawawala ng passport dahil nahanap na maging stateless sila, ganun? Yun yung status nila.
No,
I
they
mean,
revert to
China?
They won't be stateless because they will be Chinese citizen.
and what if China doesn't want them also? Dahil puro baka mga triad to mga to, di ba? I mean,
Yeah, well, they have birth certificates from China
Yeah.
because they were born in China. They just show their birth certificate.
ang gulo nito, no? I mean, do you think that, I mean, this is tricky, right? Because obviously these people wouldn't get all of these documents kung walang maraming kasabwat, maraming mga enablers. Do you think there should be some sort of a clean slate purge of all of the people involved in enabling and abetting this, or just go after some big cases and set an example and don't overstretch your intelligence and law enforcement services? Kasi kung we're talking about thousands of people, limited din naman ang mga natin eh. Baka mga overstretch pa tayo, maging mahina pa tayo in other areas of national security. I mean, how do you see
Well,
us navigating this mess?
Well, it's very simple. Those filing late registration of births should go to a different lane.
Na
where
dapat
they're
may double
strictly-
scrutiny. Oo, na medyo suspicious.
They will
Oo.
be scrutinized more closely
Yeah.
because they're not that many.
Right.
Because they were not required to submit other documents showing that they were really born here, no?
Yeah, so what you're saying is that we'll just add layers of scrutiny dun sa mga
Yeah,
nagle-late
for those
file.
with late registration.
Super late file. Yung mga biglang 14 years old lang sila, may birth certificate or something. I think there's some places na they don't accept na yata our birth certificate and all dahil sa daming mga kalokohan na nangyari. So you're right. I mean, we just have to show that we're cleaning things up. Justice, last point, Justice, going back to this, heading into elections, ano dapat ang approach ng opposition, genuine opposition, in terms of discussing West Philippine Sea issue, considering na more or less maganda naman yung ginagawa ng administration? Should it be an offensive against Duterte then, or perceive and real proxies of China? And how do we also avoid xenophobia and some sort of toxic discourse around this issue? Kasi, syempre, let's be honest, there's always also that air and shadow of prejudice that I think we have to be quite careful, especially for our Chinoy brothers and sisters, among others. Yeah.
Well, as long as we zero in on the pogos, I think we can distinguish, no? Because the legitimate Chinoys, they are not into pogos. So if we just say, okay, we're going after pogos,
Yeah.
so they will understand it will not reach them, no? And I think the problem really are the pogos, because it's so loose. I mean, we know that they are illegal. In China they are illegal, so they should be illegal here also. But we
Yeah.
turn the other way around. Even if we know that they cannot operate in China, we allow them. So it's really our fault because it's so obvious.
Yeah. And what about the issue of accountability, di ba? I mean, kasi parang nag-steroids level na to panahon ni Digong. I mean, let's be honest, itong issue ng corruption, fake passports, matagal na yan eh. I've been hearing about this since I was a little child. But it looks like next level talaga ito ng panahon ni Digong, no? It went on steroids with all of this pogo explosion, no?
Yeah, I think the committee of Senator Rizon Tiveros will dig deeper. I think they will try to find out who are the protectors, because the PAGCOR chief already said that somebody from the previous administration with cabinet rank has been calling them and lawyering for the pogos. So I think that will be the next step, no?
Ay,
To unmask
hindi
who
naman
are the
to.
protectors.
Hindi naman ito yung may supra assistant, mga ganun. Hindi naman to, no? Medyo iba naman to. Medyo, yung mga nag-iwan ng ID yung kanyang assistant sa mga pogo, mga ganyan. Hindi naman ganun. Sinapina na nga yan, ayaw magpakita eh. Alright, thank you so much, Justice Carpio. Is there something you wanna add? Because, sige, kay Liamas na lang yung mga ibang marites na tanong ko kasi sabi ko, I want to get back to you again in the future, maybe before or after SONA. Pag-usapan naman natin next time, hopefully, if you're available, God willing, Justice. Pag-usapan natin SONA, things that you look forward to, and also mga sa tingin mo na dapat i-emphasize ni Marcos, kasi this would be most important SONA yet as we head into midterm elections, and officially, wala na talagang unit team. It's even hard to pretend to having a unit team no matter what Marcos says. Is there something you want to add, Justice, as a kind of a closing point for this episode of our discussion?
Well, I think we should think seriously of filing another arbitration case, because China dreads another arbitration case. If China dreads that, that's exactly what we should do.
Right. Baka nga, yun lang, baka hypersonic tayo. On that note, thank you very much, Justice Carpio, for that supra hypersonic level of discussion on a whole range of very complicated issues. Salamat, mabuhay po kayo, Justice Carpio. And
Okay, thank you, Richard. Thank you to our viewers.
Salamat po. Alright guys, thank you very much again sa lahat ng mga nakinig sa atin dito sa supra hypersonic level of discussion na. I mean, I wanna be nice, pero minsan talagang ewan eh. Ewan ko. Sige, ang China po may China, supercomputer. Kaya wag na natin sila awayin. Okay? Thank you very much mga ka-TikTok natin. Wag na kayo mag-criticize sa China. Baka maano tayo diyan. Baka ma-ban kayo diyan. Sabihin natin love sa China. Okay, thank you very much. Salamat mga kameto. Thank you so much sa lahat ng mga sumuporta sa atin, mga nag-comments dito. And for your suggestion, please don't forget also to follow us on our Spotify podcast, Apple Podcast. Libre na magbigay ng stars and support. Hopefully 5-star if you think we deserve it. And also, please continue to share and recommend to other people para tuloy-tuloy lang itong gaining of momentum ng channels natin. And of course, sa YouTube, please continue to subscribe. Libre lang mag-subscribe para makamit natin yung basic threshold for verification among others. And thank you also sa mga kameta natin, original kameta of course natin, deep divers natin dyan. O, baka mamaya sabihin nila, ano tayo? May diving Cynthia Villar, ano? Oops! Tawag doon? Resort tayo. Hindi, deep dive as in discussion, hindi yung deep dive na diving. On that note, thank you very much and salamat. Please continue to support us. Also, subscribe dito sa Facebook and other channels natin. God bless and talk to you soon. Bukas naman, God willing, Friday, di ba? God willing sila, RRM naman tayo. Yung LDR, I'm still working on that. Leloy, Dino, Richard, yun, mga ano yan. Lasal, UP, Ateneo yan. Mga, LDR, mama na yan. We'll work on that. Yung isa New York, yung isa, Berkeley, ayan. Try natin yung ganun naman next time. Maybe hopefully God willing, maybe from Europe, gawin natin yung LDR na yan para mas maganda pa yung time zone sa amin. On that note, thank you very much. God bless and talk to you soon. Mabuhay po kayo. Mabuhay ang Pilipinas. Mabuhay ang Pilipinas po. And thank you so much sa lahat ng mga nabigyan ng stickers and support. Really appreciate it.